Hey, Logan.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for joining.
How would you like me to address you today?
Just by Ted would be fine. Awesome. Well, Logan, I know you're busy. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you again for joining me here. And then I guess just to give you a little more background, I do work with expert witnesses. So my idea was to be able to bring in mostly trial attorneys, personal injury attorneys to the podcast, be able to ask them questions that can help the experts grow their practice.
I like the idea, man. Good way to network.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'd say we're good to get started. One of the things that I've been wondering about is how do you, as an attorney, when you have a case where you need an expert, how do you go about searching for an expert witness? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so as a plaintiff's personal injury attorney, I have access to other attorneys and listservs. So we often use similar experts. Most often I use treating physicians, but if I need an expert witness outside my field, I ask other attorneys who they use, what types of specialties are required. If I can't find a expert witness that fits that criteria, then there are several vendors that have access to various types of expert witnesses that we can use. So there's a variety of places I pick and pull from, but primarily I'm relying on colleagues in the field because I trust that they will provide good, solid expert who will be able to testify well in trial.
Okay. That's good to know. A lot of them are already on directories and they do rely a lot of on referrals.
Definitely. And it's always nice to have colleagues vet them for you and have had prior experience so you're not the guinea pig and you're not the one providing this one's a little green around the ears, needs some more experience. So, it's good to know who you're getting involved with, having some rapport and some prior experience with those experts.
Yeah, okay. So it does sound like you have had some good and bad experiences with some experts.
I wouldn't say bad, but there was some that you talk to and then you start getting into the case and then you realize maybe you don't want to use that one. Sometimes it's just a fit with the case. Sometimes they're getting their feet wet, but a lot of these experts on both sides that are really polished, they're not always the best either because they've been doing it for so long that they become more of a professional witness. So it's not always indicative of how well polished they are because sometimes you like those people that don't testify 100% of the time and are still active practitioners or treating providers. So the polish always helps, but sometimes they've become disconnected with the field in which they're experts on, you know what I mean? The practical experience isn't there, but the professional testifying is a little too often and too frequent. For example, if I have on the defense side, I can pretty much tell you which witnesses or which experts are going to come up, and the defense industry knows what type of opinion they're going to offer, and they go to that person for that opinion. They're very familiar, comfortable testifying in personal injury cases, and frankly, they're making a lot of money doing it.
Okay, so you've had experiences with different types of experts. Like, let's say if you had an expert, that they're gonna be listening into this episode. What's some advice you could give them to help them stand out from other expert witnesses? Because, I'm assuming when you have to pick an expert, usually you'll have like a few to choose from. So what are some things maybe in their resumes? I don't know if you look at their websites as well, their LinkedIn, that helps them stand out from the others?
I think there's a few things we look at. I don't know if we choose the best, but I think a lot of people will use experts that they're comfortable with, that they know what they're getting. It's a known commodity. But for someone getting into the field, practical experience, so if you're an orthopedic surgeon, actually being a surgeon in the past, if you're an engineer, having the licenses and credentials to back up what you're trying to testify about. Your reputation, that always is a big factor because you get cross-examined on your reputation. So if you're only testifying for one side 100% of the time, you're opening yourself up to a little bit of cross-examination ammunition for the other side. So what I look for is someone who has practical experience, testifying experience, but also has not just pigeonholed himself as a defense expert or a plaintiff's expert. I like a little bit of variety. And then if they do have experience, I look for whether or not they've ever been disqualified from testifying as an expert. If there are disqualifications, then we want to know about it, and we want to know why, and we need to be able to anticipate that. So if I see someone that's been disqualified from offering expert opinion, that's probably going to be one criteria in my decision not to hire that person.
Oh, okay. Okay. And I've heard that from some experts that when they have that happen, it pretty much ruins their whole career, right? It's very unlikely someone will choose them again.
You know, I don't know if it ruins their career, but it's definitely not. It's a red flag. But sometimes it could be, you know, they were trying to overstep on their scope of examination. Maybe they're trying to take on something that was beyond their comfort level. It could have been a bad ruling from a judge. But if they're able to explain it and to hit it head on and not shy away from it, it's not a fatal flaw, but I would say it's not a selling point either.
There's still like a second chance there, right?
I'm sure that there's a second chance for some, but again, you want to be careful to craft your reputation to avoid having to explain why you were disqualified. You don't ever want to have on your resume, was disqualified from this case, disqualified from that case, because then your credibility is shot. So once your credibility is shot, I would say that expert's not going to be retained as often as others. They may still have a career in the field, but it's not going to be as highly likely that they're hired compared to people that are qualified all the time and stick to their lane. Some people, I think, try to extend their practice and their level of expertise, and they need to just know their lane and stick to what they can testify competently and expertly for.
Because it's so easy, right? Like someone brings you in to get your opinion. I bet it's very easy to then start just offering opinions that don't even concern you at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you're selling yourself as a Swiss Army knife of experts and you get up on the stand, that's great because now you're paying for one expert. But if you aren't quite qualified in one area and you get cross-examined in deposition or at trial, then you're exposed. And the plaintiff's attorney, you know, that's part on the plaintiff's attorney too for not fleshing that out a little bit about what the person is qualified to testify about. So they need to make sure that they're not overselling themselves to make themselves look more qualified than they actually are. So I think one piece of advice is just stick to what you know. And if you want to go out and get more expert opinion, then go do the work and become an expert in that field, but don't sell yourself on something you're not.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned the different sides. There's the plaintiff and the defendant side. Have you been on both sides as an attorney, on both the plaintiff and the defendant?
No, I've only practiced plaintiff's personal injury my entire career, so sorry, I can't speak from the defense side.
Oh, okay. No worries. You know, I work with the experts in regards to their websites and their SEO, and a big component is that they have to make sure that nothing can be used against them in court. You know, like giving opinions, most likely if they write an opinion as opposed to just stating the facts. Have you ever hired an expert that, you know, something was brought up about them, about their marketing, that was used against them?
Treating physicians that have some brochures that have been used against them, we were effective in nullifying that. But conversely, I've been able to dig up information on the internet to totally discredit people from testifying. So the internet, it never forgets. So be careful what you put out, because it really is a gold mine for people trying to find anything to discredit you. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You're trying to get your name out, but you need to be very careful in what you're putting out there and what you're offering, because you never know what's going to come back to bite you in the rear end, as they say.
Yeah. And like you said, right, it's like they can't stop marketing, but they also have to be careful doing it at the same time.
Yeah, I think if you're doing it in a professional way, you know, nowadays people know that it's cutthroat industry. Marketing and running a business is now a business. I don't think you're inherently discredited from doing marketing, but if you're doing it responsibly and ethically, just like in any field, then you're not giving the other side ammunition to try and attack you. On my side, they'll try and say, hey, you've worked with this attorney before. You've worked with him on X amount of cases. Isn't there some type of sweetheart deal going on or some type of collusion? But if you have solid basis for marketing, it's done ethically, it's done responsibly, and it's done professionally, then you're gonna be able to get ahead of that and not have to shy away from it or try and dance around that fact that you do it. And if you own it and you get out in front of it, then that's all the better.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a good point you brought up, because one time someone mentioned that they didn't want to really work on getting more testimonials, because then that could be used against them in court, right? Either that, like you said, maybe there's something going on between the attorney and that expert, that they like each other, or if they're on the opposite side of things, then again, right, there could be something that they, like a perspective they would want to bring on it.
Yeah, subject to the local evidentiary rules, there's always going to be things that are not allowed to come in at trial. But in like deposition, if you have ways to discredit people, you're going to be confronted with that. So if you know that it's out there, then you're going to have to be able to rebut it and do it confidently. And if it's something that you're just now being presented with the first time, then you better be fast on your feet and have a good reason as to why that piece of information is being used to try to discredit you.
Going back to the brochures, keeping all confidentiality and not naming any names, what do you think specifically, or what were they using against that expert that she or him had in that marketing brochure?
Pretty much what I alluded to earlier, the relationship between the treating doctor and the attorney, the type of relationship that they may have, like, you're sending me a client, we're going to give you a sweetheart deal in the end, or there's some type of collusion. That's a defense strategy that they often employ to try and discredit or to try and get the decision maker, usually the jury, to see that there's the attorney and the doctor are working together to try and either drum up some medical bills or maybe do something that's not medically necessary. So if there's a solid basis for that relationship, then you want to send your clients to the best doctor. I mean, as a person that's been injured, I want to go to the best, and if it happens to be someone I'm working with, then I'm going to use that person over and over again because I trust that referral. So there are ways to combat it, but you just have to be able to own that and be able to talk about it and talk about it confidently. Yes, I work with this expert. Why? Because this expert is the best in the field, and I would send my friends and family there, stuff like that. Just owning the points or the whatever arrows that the defense may shoot at you, just being able to anticipate it and talk about it and not shy away from it.
Okay, that's good to know. I was wondering if it was maybe something like the expert was saying they're an expert in, a specific thing, then it turned out he wasn't, or, something related to that.
I've never personally come across that before, so I can't speak on that. But again, I would caution people, whatever you're giving away, if it's a brochure, you need to be careful, because if you're giving it away, it doesn't mean it's not going to end up in the hands of someone who's not using it for the right purposes, right? So if you're making some type of marketing literature, expect it to be used against you at some point, and that's why you should be able to try and anticipate, if you're trying to get into this field, whatever you're putting out there is going to be gathered by the other side. So be careful. It's like caveat emptor, buyer beware, You want to be careful with what you're putting out there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's the whole, like, they get a lot of training on what they can use, what they can't use. So it's like a big part of their business, their practice.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, if it's out, use common sense. I think that's, don't step outside your lane. Don't put anything that you think is, if you have to think about putting it in, don't put it in. It's like, is this going to come back to bite me? Then it's not worthwhile putting out there.
So I know you say you work with a lot of like referrals and kind of like vetting or pre-vetted experts. Let's say if there's an expert here that, is just getting started or is having a difficulty finding more cases, would you recommend them to do some more aggressive marketing, or what would you recommend them?
So for that type of expert, I would go and show why you're an expert in that field as to your qualifications and your experience. And even if you're not polished in testifying, that will come with experience. So polished professional witnesses aren't always the best. Sometimes you want people that are a little rough around the edges, because that's not what they do every day. What they do every day is their actual job, and not testifying in court 5 days a week for the same characters or the same companies that hire them. So you're always welcome to new people, because it takes away the stigma or some ammunition from the other side to be able to try and attack that person who's testified as an expert for 15 or 20 years. So if you're trying to break in the field, I would go talk to people, go put on a seminar and demonstrate why you're an expert. And I think the interest will follow. Once you get your foot in the door with a few, then it will start snowballing. So work on putting yourself as an expert based on your experience and your qualifications more than fancy marketing.
And continuing on that, along fancy marketing, sometimes some experts go to they're like, oh, I don't want anything being used against me. So they don't even have a website. They may even have a LinkedIn, but it's not very optimized. Would you say maybe that's going too far? And I mean, they have a business, so they should focus on having some sort of presence.
I think it's important to have an online presence, but again, you have to be very careful to curate what you put online. So I can't answer that question head on, but I would again urge people to have common sense. What you're putting out there, you want to be able to put things out there that are accessible to the internet, because that's how we access everything nowadays. But be very careful with letting someone do it for you, or if someone's doing it for you, make sure that you're overseeing it, because one little piece of something that you don't know is going up, it could be used against you. So I would caution people to what they put out there, but you should be at least putting up something so you look like you're a real person and you have some validation and some credibility, but you want to curate it responsibly.
And then just curious, a little bit more on the details is, let's say you have to find an expert, couldn't find one through your colleagues, so you have to go out and find one online. And let's say you have two experts, one that looks like they have an actual up-to-date modern website that explains what they do. You go through it, you make sure that they're the right fit, and then you find another one that has, maybe a website that's from the 2000s. Are they even practicing anymore? I don't know. Do you think that weighs in that scenario?
I think it does, but I'm not going to make a decision based on the appearance of a website. I think it is nice to have something that looks like it's not from 2000. You want to look like you're up with the times, you're knowledgeable, but my decision factor is going to be based on a phone call with that person. So insofar as having something that's professional and up to date, I think it will help bring attention to you. But my ultimate decision is not going to be based on the website alone.
Well, awesome. Logan, thank you so much. These are some questions that I've had in the back of my mind, mostly because some of the experts have asked me these type of things. So I really appreciate it. And I guess one last question is, if there's any experts here listening, are there any specific expert witnesses that you work with the most?
I'm not going to disclose that to people. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sure some other attorneys may disclose that, but I don't want to disclose that information without other people's consent. But one question we were talking offline that I think is important was common misconceptions that experts may have. I was actually talking to a buddy, and he had this happen to him, and he said that experts often believe that they don't have to read everything and that the attorney will tell them highlights. Don't rely on the attorney to give you the Cliff Note versions. Make sure you're doing your diligence and reading all the materials, because you're the expert and some things might slip past the attorney's mind, or sometimes we get tunnel vision and don't focus on the correct details. So that's why we're hiring someone who actually has the knowledge and expertise. So do the work and read all the documents, because you may catch something that you may save the case, and you may, if you rely on the attorney, you may miss something that might make you look foolish on the stand. So that's one piece of advice I think I can carry forward.
Yeah, thank you. The last part is giving you a little bit of a promotional section. If you want to, talk about your firm, what you specialize in, and how you help people.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today. It's nice to always be able to talk to people and gain some new insight and knowledge, and congratulations on what you're doing. As you can see, I'm an attorney. I'm promoting myself right now, Quirk Accident Injury Attorneys. I am a plaintiff's personal injury attorney. Been doing this over 15 years. I think I'm in year 16. I stopped counting because it shows my age a little bit. I'm licensed in California, Nevada, and Montana. So primarily practice out of Southern California, and we do all garden variety, personal injury, motor accidents, auto accidents, bicycle collisions, truck accidents, wrongful death, slip, trip, and falls, pedestrian accidents, and the like. So we are here for anyone that is in need of an attorney who's been injured, and if any of your experts want to reach out to me, I'll definitely make myself available to try and chat with them. But I think what you're doing is a good resource for them, and hopefully with your interviews with other attorneys, they'll learn a comprehensive lesson on what they can do to position themselves to become a well-qualified and expert in their field.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Good for you, man. It's a nice service that you're offering. I'm not aware of other people that are doing this, so I think it's very smart, and it's a good resource for experts in the fields that they're trying to get into. That's what I was trying to say before the cat got my tongue.
Thank you again, Logan, so much for the insights. I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate it. Eternally grateful that you were a part of it. If you have any other comments you'd like to give, or
no, just do the work and be competent and try not to step outside your lane and get cute, and I think you're going to be successful, and just like any business.
Thank you so much again, Logan. I'll let you go. I'm really excited where this is going, and hopefully provide a lot of content for the
Look forward to
experts.
seeing it blow up and following you in the future. And if you at the end of this, I'll give you all my links so you can tag us, or where people can find us online if they have any other questions.
Perfect. Will do. All right. I hope you have an awesome day. Goodbye.
Likewise. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.